Hey, Lilah girl. Are you ready to keep reading? Mercy is missing. We ended last time on chapter 7, so that's where I'm going to start. Let me see if I understand this, said Percival Smigley, private investigator. You're missing a pig. We are missing our darling, our dear, said the lady with the very rosy cheeks. She's a porcine wonder, actually, said the man. She's a member of the family, said the young girl. Do you have a license, said the boy with glasses. A license for what, said Percival. A license to be an investigator, said the boy. What's your name again, said Percival. Frank, said the boy. Listen, Frank, I don't need a license to find a pig. Any fool can find a pig. And not that it's any of your beeswax, but I do have a license. I'm fully licensed and bonded and all of those other things, too. It's hot in here, said the smaller boy, the one with his hair sticking up straight on the top of his head. Can you open a window? In the meantime, the old lady was inspecting Percival's rubber plant. I think this might need some water, she said. It's made out of rubber, said Percival. So I'm thinking it doesn't. Okay, let's get to the matter at hand. Percival got out his notebook. He turned to a clean page. He wrote missing pig at the top of the page, and then he underlined the words. When did you last see this pig? He asked. Her name is Mercy, said the rosy-cheeked woman, and it was this morning after breakfast. Right, said Percival, and he wrote down pig in question last seen after breakfast. And then he looked up and said, And you are? I am Mrs. Watson. Let's switch sides. It's kind of hurting my back. Sorry. Okay. I am Mrs. Watson. Percival wrote down Mrs. Watson next to the words about the pig and breakfast. What's your success rate? Said the kid named Frank. Well, Frank, I've solved every case I've ever had. This was true. If Percival had had any cases, he surely would have solved them. So it kind of sounds like he wasn't telling the truth. Oh, I see. Bad lighting that way. We'll figure this out. We'll get there. It doesn't matter. Okay. Did you see the pictures? Now, he said, give me some more facts about the pig. She likes to ride in the car, said the man in a mournful voice. And you are, said Percival. Mr. Watson, said the man. Percival wrote, Pig takes car rides, ? Mr. Watson. Any other likes, dislikes, general temperament, daily activities. She loves toast with a great deal of butter, said Mrs. Watson. She searches for truffles, said Frank. She likes to frolic, said the old woman. And this plant is alive, but just barely. Where can I get some water? I'm not worried about the plant, said Percival Smigley. He wrote down toast, butter, truffles, frolic. Okay, he said. Let's see. Anybody got a beef against this pig? Do you mean, is anybody angry with her? Said the girl. The kid with the problem hair was struggling with the window, trying to open it. Leave the window alone, said Percival. It's just that I'm feeling claustrophobic, said the kid. I'm loath to admit it, said the rubber pant lady, but my sister, Eugenia, is very frustrated with Mercy. I don't think she would do anything to harm her, however. Said Percival. What's your name? Baby, said the old lady. Baby as in baby? Correct, said the old lady. Is your mustache real? Said the girl. What? Said Percival. It's just that it kind of looks fake. How are we doing this? Can you see that? Okay. And for no good reason, he wrote down the word mustache. The kid with the wild hair had finally succeeded in opening the window, and a gust of cool air came in. And with the cool air came the pigeon, flapping its wings, flying around the office. The old lady named Baby screamed. Pigeons carry diseases, shouted the kid named Frank. Do you think a pigeon has a name? Like maybe Polly? That's funny. Parrots are named Polly, said the boy with the hair, not pigeons. Percival Smigley stood up. He shouted, Everyone needs to leave here immediately. I will solve this case, but I need you to leave. They all left, except for the pigeon. The pigeon stayed, and when Percival sat down at his desk, the pigeon flapped its wings and settled down at the desk too. Percival was suddenly very tired. His mustache felt heavy upon his face. The pigeon stared at him, cocking its head from side to side. Shoo, said Percival Smigley. The pigeon did not move. Percival looked down at his notes and then back up at the pigeon. He said, I've been waiting for a mystery. The pigeon nodded. I just didn't think the mystery I was waiting for was the mystery of a missing pig, said Percival. I'm kind of disappointed if he wants to know the truth. He sighed. The pigeon nodded again. Oddly, the pigeon seemed disappointed too. That's him talking to the pigeon. That's funny. Chapter 8. The pig, however, was not disappointed. She was trotting down the side of Highway I-16 with her snout in the air. "Look at that," said George Ainsley III. "There goes a pig." George Ainsley and his friend Melvin were in Melvin's pickup, and Melvin was driving. "I see it," said Melvin. "What's a pig doing running down the side of the road?" said George Ainsley III. "I don't know, but I'll tell you what, pigs are good eating." "Duh," said George. "You barbecue 'em," said Melvin. "Duh," said George. Again. This is what these guys look like. Look at that guy's nose. That's funny. Okay. "Duh," said George Ainsley III again. Melvin stopped the truck. "Who do you think that pig belongs to?" said George. "Us," said Melvin. Haha, that's funny. He's trying to take the pig. You want to see more? Let me turn the book. There you go. Melvin put the truck in park. He said, "You can use a pig to make bacon." "Duh, Melvin," said George. The two men got out of the truck and walked down the road towards the pig. "I wonder what you got to say to Pig to make him hop in the truck." "Here, piggy, piggy." "Okay," said George. "You say it." Melvin hitched up his pants. "Here, piggy, piggy," he shouted. The pig turned and looked over its shoulder at them. "All right," said George. "We're in business now." The pig kicked up his heels and started to run. But so did Melvin. George didn't run, but he did start to walk a bit faster. He thought how the day was turning out strange. It wasn't every day that you found yourself running or walking down the side of the highway after a pig. George Ainsley III shouted at Melvin, "This day is turning out real strange." Melvin didn't answer. He and the pig were far away now. Boy, that pig could run. Melvin was doing all right, too. Chapter 9. Frank had his doubts about Percival Smigley and his abilities as a private investigator. Frank wanted to think well of people, but he'd seen Percival Smigley's notes, and he couldn't help but notice that several words were spelled incorrectly. Percival had used a K instead of a C to spell frolic, and then he left an F out of the word truffles. Spelling words incorrectly didn't mean you weren't a good detective. Frank knew that. Still, it gave him pause. He thought that maybe he would go to Buddy's Lamp Used Goods and sit in one of Betty's Lamp's pink chairs and see if any revelatory thoughts showed up. Buddy Lamp was, as usual, delighted to see Frank. "It's been a very dramatic morning on Dicamillo Drive," said Frank. "Mercy Watson is missing." "Ah," said Buddy Lamp the pig, the much-beloved pig. "Yes," said Frank, "we've looked everywhere. She's never disappeared before. Never. And Baby Lincoln had the idea that we should go to a private detective to get some expert help in finding her." "I see," said Buddy Lamp. "Hum-de-hum-hum. Speaking of detectives, somewhere around here I have a magnifying glass that is purportedly to have one been owned by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the man who invented the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes." See him talking? "Precisely," said Buddy Lamp. "Of course, it's probably nothing but a pleasant fiction that the magnifying glass belonged to him. However, it is a very handsome object. I'll be right back." Buddy Lamp disappeared into the glooms of his store and soon returned with the magnifying glass and handed it to Frank. Frank held the glass up. "This is very nice. Not exactly what you need, though, to find a pig, is it?" "Not really," said Frank. Quiet descended. Frank and Buddy Lamp sat in companionable silence. After a while, Frank said, "Do you think that private detective needs to spell well?" "A curious question. Let me ponder it." Buddy Lamp pondered. "No," said Buddy. "I don't think it's necessary for a private detective to spell well. I think that what would matter is whether the investigator can think creatively, critically." Said Frank. He stared at Buddy's lamp, a familiar face, distorted by the thick lens, and Frank tried to think creative and critically. Into the silence of his thinking came a smell. Frank lowered the magnifying glass. "Mr. Lamp," he said, "do you smell that?" Buddy Lamp put his nose in the air, sniffed, and smiled. "Butter," he said. It's second shift for the new Butter Barrel Candy Factory out on Houston Highway." "The Butter Barrel Factory," said Frank. "I was just reading about that in the paper this morning. Stella's very excited. She loves candy of all sorts. I love Butter Barrel. They're just so buttery." "Yes," said Frank, "and it turns out that they smell buttery as they're being made." "I think I've just cracked the case." Mr. Lamb, I better go tell Percival Smegley P.I. That leaves us at chapter 10, which we will read next time. Let me see how long chapter 10 is. Maybe we can read it. I gotta wake the baby up. Okay, we can read it. Chapter 10. Oh, no pictures. George Ainsley was correct. Mercy Watson was very fast, and also she rarely turned down the opportunity for a frolic. If these gentlemen wanted to run, she was up for it. No one could catch her when she made up her mind not to be caught. Mercy ran down a culvert and up a hill. She looked over her shoulder. Just one man chasing her now. Hey, he shouted, Piggy. Here, Piggy, Piggy. Mercy picked up speed. Oh, it was fun. The sun was shining and the sky above was blue, and someone was chasing her and everything smelled like butter. She was happy. It was a talent of this pig's absolute, undeniable, all-consuming, outrageous happiness. She kicked up her heels and she ran. Chapter 11. That's where we'll stop today. Okay, well, we're figuring out where Mercy might have went, and we're getting close to catching her. Were you surprised? What were you thinking? Did you put it together when we read about the newspaper and the prologue, about the new butter factory and how much she loves buttery toast? I didn't. I'm surprised. I'll read to you more tomorrow. Good night. Love you.